Okay, welcome back to another video about Flow, my firmware sequencer for the Launchpad Pro. Today I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the performance features, and then I'll talk about just settings and some other basics, and hopefully that should cover just about everything that we haven't gotten to yet. So let's start with shuffle. So here's a very simple pattern. So this button here is the shuffle button, and what it does when you hit it, it rearranges the pattern randomly. But it's not a random function. It shuffles it once and then it keeps playing through that pattern, so you might get a different pattern you like. So the button's white, which means shuffle is on. If I hit it again, it goes back to the original pattern. And then if I hit it again, it will shuffle it in a new way. Now, if you really like that pattern, then you can save this pattern to another one, and it will save the shuffled order as the original order of the new pattern. So I can make this one go back to its original, but if I go to this pattern, it's the same thing in the shuffled form. And of course I can shuffle this one and then revert it back. But that shuffled version is now the original form of this pattern. Let's look at another feature, which is called jump mode. So in jump mode, rather than being able to add markers to the stages, tapping one of the stages will immediately jump to that stage. So we'll turn jump mode on here. And in jump mode, when you tap on a stage, it waits for the next clock interval, so it won't. The timing will stay on the MIDI clock whenever you hit it. Let's talk about flow mode. So I went into this a little bit in one of my earlier videos. So flow mode lets you sequence through multiple patterns to make a multi-pattern arrangement. So let's put in, let's just put in some simple patterns to make it easy to tell which pattern we're on. So we have pattern A. Let's pitch that down a little. B, C, and D. So in flow mode, by default, it's just going to play through those one at a time. A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, etc. And it's staying on each one for an entire measure, even if it has to loop the pattern a little bit. But we can change the order of flow mode, and that is on the settings screen. So these two rows, the second and third rows here, are the flow patterns for the two pattern groups. So right now we're in the first pattern group. And these colors, gray, dark blue, light blue, white, correspond to the four patterns A, B, C, D. So right now you can see it's playing A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. But for example, we could make it, we're just going to play pattern A, and then we're going to use B as a fill, and then A again, and let's say C as a fill. So when we play this, that should be what we hear. So you can use it as a fill. One pattern I like is ABAC, ABAD. And so that's really treating A as the original pattern, and then B, C, and D are variations that just come in alternately. So with our simple little pattern, it would sound like this. Okay, you get the idea. Of course, it's more fun if we have a more interesting pattern. So let's do this pattern again. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to copy that. Oops, I'm going to copy that to each of the BCD patterns by tapping that pattern button and holding it down. And now let's just put in some little variations. Make this one flat, maybe turn off the legato, and then on this one, let's just shuffle it. So we'll put flow mode on. And I'm going to go to the ABAC, ABAD pattern here. So we'll do like this and like that. So let's hear how it sounds. You get the idea. One more feature that I didn't go into last time. So I talked a little bit about pattern mods. Let's make a new pattern here. I talked a little bit about pattern mods, and there's a feature you can get using the pattern mods that called transpose repeat. And the way that works, let's so here's the basic pattern. Okay. So right now, this note, this stage is repeating. We hear it twice. Okay. If we turn on transpose repeat, and that's just by putting a tie marker on the pattern mods here. When it repeats, the note will be transposed up. In this case, the default is by an octave. So we'll hear this transpose up an octave when it repeats. But it can be other intervals too. So if I have a note or sharps and flats on the pattern mods, they will dictate the repeat interval. Or I can go back to an octave. Now when transpose repeat is not on, then putting a note on the pattern mod will just transpose the whole pattern. So it's very easy to use this to make a like an octave, an octave bass line 80s style. So we could do something like let's do E E F D. Oops. And we're going to make those eighth notes by adding an extend to the pattern. So right now it's this. Then we're going to add a repeat. And now if I add repeat transpose, then we'll get the octave transpose on the repeats. And of course we could change the interval. Now the repeats don't have to be just repeats on the pattern mod. They can be repeats on individual stages, as we saw before. So what's happening there is each time it repeats, it's getting transposed up an octave, so we get that nice high arpeggio. So what's going on there is there's legato on this stage. So the stage is repeating, but each time it's played legato, so we just hear it slide all the way up. Okay, one more performance feature. Doesn't really change the sound, but it kind of looks cool. This is called water mode. So this is flow, so the element is water. And this just puts some nice water-looking blinking lights in the middle. All of the buttons still work properly, you just can't necessarily see everything. So let's talk a little bit about settings. So the third button up here is the settings screen. And there's a few basic settings here. One is these bottom two rows are MIDI channels. So right now it's on MIDI channel 1. You can just change it to a different channel. Of course, it's not going to trigger the Shruti here because wrong channel. This button here is the auto load mode. When it's on, it will load whatever patterns are in the memory when you turn it on. If it's not on, it won't. And then these three are the MIDI output port controls. So it has the DIN MIDI output and then 2 USB outputs. So again, if you turn them off, Obviously, it's not going to do anything. I'm running the Shruti off of the DIN port, so that should make it work. And then finally on the settings screen, this row is a binary representation of the version number. So currently we're on version number 4. These 3 rows up here, you remember from other videos, those are the pattern and the flow patterns. And then just briefly on some of the other function buttons. So I talked about the save, load, and clear buttons before. The other buttons up here, this is the play button. And if you're triggering externally, it will light up when it's running. Flow is not really set up to be a master clock very well. At the moment, it only has 1 tempo, and it doesn't send MIDI clocks. Generating accurate MIDI clocks is difficult, so it doesn't do it at the moment. Other buttons, this red button here is the MIDI panic button. So if you have stuck notes, if you hit this, it will cancel the notes. And then this is the settings button, as we showed. And I think that covers all the basic functionality of Flow. I've been adding more features. We'll probably keep adding more, and we'll make other videos. But hopefully this gives a good sense of what you can do with Flow.